Welcome to the Life Is podcast, where creativity, culture, mindset, and intentional living come together through real conversation. I'm your host, Coy Brown. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, travelers, and visionaries who didn't stumble into a life they love, they built it. We go deep into how they think, how they reconstructed themselves, and what became possible on the other side. This is not just about what people have accomplished. It's about the internal work that made it sustainable. Because when you build from the inside out, life expands. Let's get into it. This week, I'm sitting down with someone who started feeling the weight of performance anxiety in middle school before most kids know what anxiety even is, and spent his entire adult life learning to convert that pressure into fuel instead of letting it be a ceiling. Zevin is a serial entrepreneur who taught himself to code on YouTube, launched a marketing and SEO company out of Oklahoma with nothing but cold calls and grit, scaled a CBD and hemp distribution business called Bloomble to over 100 employees and $100,000 a month in revenue, slept in his car when it was necessary, and kept building when most people would have stopped. He has launched healthcare companies, navigated the chaos of COVID-19, studied how the most effective communicators in the world actually talk, and is now building a social media platform called the HumanOS, designed to fund community healthcare initiatives without depending on traditional venture capital. He is also producing 2 or 3 videos a day and quietly becoming one of the more interesting voices in his space. His story isn't about finding the perfect business. It is about developing the kind of internal infrastructure that lets you keep building through every version of the wrong one. Here's what that actually looked like. All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome back to another episode of the Life Is podcast, hosted by myself, Coy. And we're back with another episode, and I'm excited to have the guest that we have on the show today, Zevin Clark. And Zevin is a serial entrepreneur, marketing and SEO founder, CBD and hemp industry builder that he was previously in, and a healthcare innovator, as well as a content creator. Personally, I know Zevin. Zevin is someone I very much look up to, and he's just super driven and very inspirational. But I'm excited I'm having the show for those who are listening and tuning in. And more importantly, Zevin, happy to have you here and see how you're doing, share your story, and just the path of finding that coherence and what it took to get to where you're at. So without further ado, man, how you doing and how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Happy to be here. Happy to, just grateful that you invited me onto the podcast. Been seeing the plethora of amazing guests that you've had, and just
Yes.
the engaging conversations that you were able to create. So I'm super excited to have this conversation. One of my
Yes.
best friends, you and Emilio, right? Always hanging
Mm-hmm.
out, having a good time, talking about the things that are necessary in the world, but also super exciting and interesting. So yeah, I'm pumped up.
Awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely feel the same. Well, as we get going, right, for those who may not know you, as always, for the listeners who are just meeting you, there's Evan. Can you kind of just open up? We'll kind of give you the floor here to kind of tell them who you are, what you've built, and what are you building like right now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could do my best to go around the world in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Uh,
I know it's a
but
loaded question.
yeah, it's definitely a loaded question. And if I miss anything, let's
We'll
just
go
make
through it.
sure that we surface back to where I missed, right?
Yes.
And so it's an interesting question that you've asked, like who I am. The last podcast I was on, I have a new mentor,
Yep.
Hugo, and so him and I were talking, and he asked me the same question, "Who am I?" And for the longest time, it's interesting that this podcast is about coherence because I attached my identity to who I was, what I was
Right.
doing, the businesses that were being created, and that allows some type of discrepancy when it comes to not only your
Mm-hmm.
personality but your overall life. So, I mean, before I would have introduced myself as the serial entrepreneur, like you said, right? I think that that's super exciting to be able to create different things,
Right.
whatever you're fixated on or fascinated with, to be able to kind of do. And so um, that's what I would always introduce myself as before. But now, I mean, I mainly tell people that I study anthropology, right? I'm an anthropologist. Anthropology is the study of human nature. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
from the time that I was probably in elementary school, dude, always studying what people were doing, why they were doing the things that they were doing, and how I could not necessarily manipulate time, but like to see what people were doing, why they were
Yeah.
doing it, and how I can kind of do
Yeah.
my own thing inside of it. And so, yeah, I think that that's who I really am right now. I'm an avid reader, avid podcast listener,
Yes.
studying of human nature and all of the things in between, you know?
Yeah. Man, I love it. That's awesome. I think that sets the floor to what we're about to get into. I think people are going to see the vast, not only just experience as you talked about, kind of serial entrepreneur, but just the vast range of the mindset and the intricacies that you like to get into and what you dove into and how that shapes you of who you are as a person. So I think that's going to be able to shine through the podcast. Um, but before we do get there, I want to go back to the beginning because I think the origin of, like you said, studying anthropology and why people do what they do. I think it's also important to understand like who we are, right? I think that was
Yeah.
the answer you gave in the beginning. Um, I want to start like where you started, right? The middle school and even just the weight of performance, right? Which I think is so easily attached to a lot of entrepreneurs and performers as sports and athletes as well. And speaking of that, if you can kind of take us back to like middle school, right? You've talked about anxiety really showing up early, right? Before really most kids even have language for what that is or kind of identify it. Can you kind of share like what that actually was like and maybe what did it feel like in your body and what do you think was driving it? Before we jump back in, I want to take a quick moment to highlight one of our community partners for the podcast, the St. Joe County Public Library. We're proud to team up with them because of everything they pour into our local community, and they've got some great things coming up on the horizon. So, one quick thing for anyone local. If you haven't looked at the St. Joe County Public Library's event calendar lately, you really should. They've got so much more than people realize. Everything from story times and hand-on activities for kids to teen events, workshops, author talks, book clubs, and free resources for adults. It's honestly one of those things where there's almost certainly something valuable happening right down the street from you, and you just haven't checked yet. Head over to sjcpl.org/events to see what's coming up. And now, let's get right back to the episode.
Yeah, man, great questions. And I think this is something that I've been kind of fixated on and just infatuated with for a very long time. I used to go to something, and I'm going to go to elementary school, then to middle school, right?
Yeah, do your thing.
I used to go to something called Extended Time and YMCA. I don't know if you even know what that is. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not, but I'm sure some listening will know what that is.
Yeah, so, it's for the very busy parents that don't have time to watch their children. They're at
Okay.
work, right? And
Yes,
so,
yes.
they extend out the time that you're spending at school, and so I'd show up at school early and I'd leave late, specifically
Mm.
with all of the other kids that had to do that, and then summer camps and things of that nature, but there was a time in elementary school where we'd be driving to school, and before we leave the house, I'd see my dad and he'd be getting sick before we even left the driveway. And I always wondered, like, dude, what is happening? Like, are you
Right.
sick? Am I gonna get sick? Like,
Yeah.
like as kids, we're not really worried about our parents. We're worried about
Yeah.
what they're gonna do to
To
us. And so
us,
I
yes,
always
yes.
thought, like, hey man, you gotta stop this. And,
Yeah. What's
and so
going on?
like you said before, there was no word for anxiety. Anxiety wasn't this like coined term that everybody used. And so it really came up in my life around sixth or seventh grade,
Yeah.
surrounding football. Right, I think that a lot of trauma or a lot of things are actually embedded inside of how we were brought up as children. Right,
Mhm.
a lot of us are doing the things that we're doing today in response to how we felt when we were younger. And with me, I always felt like there was this ability or need to have to perform. And so there were games and situations where I felt like I had to be the man, right? I felt like I had to be
Mhm.
that person. And that's where I really learned what was happening to my father before we
Yeah.
left the driveway, right? Getting super
Yeah.
sick and just anxious and just not really understanding what was going on. But you asked, how does it feel, right? And
Yeah.
it's just this like, crazy rush. I would also kind of explain it as something where you feel like you're almost out of control. And for
Mhm.
me, I mean, I've been studying this for so long, talking to so many therapists, going to all of the coaches, doing all the things. And so
Right.
I learned that it was just my own response to the situation, trying to gain back control. And so they called it purging at the time. But yeah, my
Mhm.
anxiety was seeded specifically from attempting to always perform and be the person that would earn the love, the trust, the respect
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
my family, friends,
Yep.
cousins, anybody really, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that happened, man. I think just relating to your story, like playing high school and football, it was like to your point, your identity, almost your worth became what you performed, right? And it was like, if you knew if you played bad or poorly, how would that play out, right? And that could affect you, but also the perception you think people think of you, and how do you stack up, right? So there's kind of a built-in, you said, anxiety that you feel in your body. Was
Absolutely.
was there maybe a specific moment, or was football that situation that you remember, like for the first time you felt that pressure, um, the anxiety you had to
Uh,
face?
so I mean, I feel like I've been feeling pressure all the time, right? But for it to come to the conclusion of, like, having to purge or getting
Yeah.
sick before things, that came specifically before big football games, right? Whether it was a
Mhm.
playoff game or in high school, right before, having to perform as the running back or doing this or that. It was always before these big events had to take place, and, outside of that, it never really even came up. That's what's so crazy
Yeah,
about it.
that's wild. Yeah. And it's also too, like, it's interesting because, like, obviously we've talked plenty of times offline, but, like, just the idea of how your body can create the chemicals and reactions to feel anxiety. Like, because it's
Yeah,
just an event, right? It's just an event. Like, we're in it, but, like, we can create, there can be triggers, don't get me wrong, but we kinda amplifies what I'm really getting at, the situation more than it could be or should be. Um,
yeah,
so that's also an interesting, aspect as well. So kind of moving forward here, you said by the time, high school, the anxiety was showing up physically, right? Getting sick, like you said, before football games. But a counselor, actually your school counselor actually stepped in and helped. And then it came back, right? So kind of walk me through that cycle, kind of maybe what the counselor gave you and what happened when that support was no longer there.
yeah. I feel like nobody actually even knows these stories. That's what's so interesting about your podcast is because we're diving deep and we're double clicking on situations that
Yes.
outside of my own personal journal, I don't even talk about, right?
Well,
But,
I
uh
appreciate you sharing. Yeah.
literally, but yeah, I think about that, fairly often. What did, Coach Nobilio or I mean, Josh Nobilio is his name, but he
Yeah.
was a coach to me at the time, my sophomore year, because freshman year was super stressful, right? I went
Hmm.
into, high school as what I would call the man, right? I
Hmm.
was lifting as much as juniors and seniors because I had started lifting when I was 12 years old, trying to gain an edge, right? Watching
Absolutely.
the Reggie Bushes of the world, the LaDainian
Yep.
Tomlinsons of the world, all of the best college athletes and NFL athletes, and I just wanted to be like that, right? And so I would
Exactly.
do whatever it takes to actually get there, and that's how that pressure started to build up, in freshman year, right? Before every game, I'm watching those pump up,
Yeah, you too.
YouTube videos right when YouTube came out, right? I think that my favorite one was, like, Moments of the Decade, and it showed the last decade and all of the highlights that happened, and that's how
Mhm.
I get super jacked up before the
That's right.
games.
Let's go, let's go.
But it also, allowed so much emotion to build up that I needed somewhere for that emotion to go, and that's where that
Mhm.
actually came out, right? That's where the purging started, but what Nobilio really told me was that there comes a point in your life where you know that it's going to happen, and you just have to be okay with it,
Mhm.
and from there, that whole sophomore year, it was like a weight had been lifted off of my shoulders, right? Where it was like,
Mhm.
"Man, so be it. This is sophomore football. It's not the end of the world.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
you're gonna do what you gotta do." And why it came back, I even understand that, right? It was, coaches and players and everybody saying, "You're either not gonna play or you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. You're not as good as you think you are.
Mhm.
Your sophomore year was a fluke." All of these things, right?
Like, creep
Not
in.
being pulled up to the varsity level as a sophomore when 4 or 5 other guys who I deemed to not be as good were moved up to get to
Yeah,
play and gain the, just the experience of being able to
correct.
play with the juniors and seniors as a sophomore. So all of that kinda just kept on creeping up, and so it was the pressure again that built up to, hold on.
Oh, pretty good.
Yeah. That built up and essentially just ended up creating the problem all over again. But, I mean, for the most part, outside of, like, its initial phases, can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, you're good.
Okay, sorry, it just froze. Outside of its initial phases, yeah, I mean, it was, its own thing, and now it's actually kind of formed a lot of my life today, dude. When you look at a lot of the companies that have been created or the
Yeah.
things that I do on a day-to-day basis, it's really trying to be a voice for the voiceless, right? Trying to be the person who not only understands what people are going through, but somewhat has a response and an answer and a cycle for them to follow that allows them to overcome it, right? To
I
get
mean,
through it,
yeah.
to understand what's happening, and then find the solution. Because I mean, we don't need to feel powerless.
Yeah, that's true, man. I appreciate you sharing that honestly, man, from friend to friend, because I think a lot of people who are tuning in, whether in different industries, I think just a broad spectrum. I've spoke to different people in different classes, different different industries. Like I said, I think everyone goes through that, especially entrepreneurs. But really any field, like I said, I think people silently feel that, whether that's imposter syndrome or just performing any task, right? Because you've got to a certain level, so now you feel like you have to keep it up. Um, I just want to say, no, I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's important to realize. And I think too, to your point, um, being okay to like let it go by, right? I think that's the hard
Yeah,
thing as humans, no matter where we're at in our healthy journey, is like not wanting to like hold on tightly and like control the steering wheel, right?
yeah,
Or not turning our back to it. Like, hey, we see it, like your coach said, we see it, we let it go, and now we can maybe find tools and mechanisms how to like work through it. But the auto control wanting to, override it can create the even more anxiety and exacerbate the
agreed.
situation. So awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that. You also had a realization at some point too, speaking of that, that letting other people's opinions control your feelings was limiting what you were capable of. Which is not like really a small insight, especially at that age. Most adults really never fully land it, right? Or understand it. How did you get there and what maybe has changed when you did get there?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it really comes down to spending enough time with yourself to understand how much of the world can you actually control, right?
Mhm.
Well, back in the day, watching the movie Notorious with Notorious B.I.G. and his mom said,
Yeah.
"You want to change the world, you can only change yourself."
Yes.
I've been
Yes.
very introspective with that line alone, right?
Yeah. It's a good one.
Attempting to control other people when now at this stage, I don't even think that they're controlling themselves, right?
Mm.
There's so much indoctrination, there's so much propaganda, there's so much that we listen to that controls
Yep.
what we
Yep.
believe and what we do that it's hard for me to look at what other people are doing and or what they're thinking, especially of me. And like,
Yeah.
man, not only does it not matter, you might as well not even think about it because it's just a waste of time. It's a
Yeah.
total waste of time.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That was actually uh, perfect answer. Was there a specific moment like where you caught yourself shrinking? And this is just kind of thinking back. Like, was there a moment where you caught yourself shrinking because of someone else's opinion, and and chose differently for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, a lot of it can come down to people's projected opinion of what we're capable of,
Hmm.
right? There was a
Yeah.
time where, I really thought I was going to be able to bench 500 pounds as a senior in high school, but
Yeah.
I was only in 8th grade, going into 8th grade, so I thought that the trajectory was all this, that was, like, gonna be extremely beneficial and go into my path, but
Right.
listening to other people, they'd say, "No, that's not possible, you see what I'm benching? I'm only at
Yeah.
250
Yeah.
pounds, and I'm already a senior," and listening to other people, they will project their own insecurities onto you, and then if you listen, man, who knows what you're gonna be capable of. You're just gonna shrink your own self because they've already shrank themselves,
Mm.
you know? And so I just attempt to look at what's possible in all of humanity, right? I look and see, okay, if one person, right, Roger Bannister, he broke the 4-minute mile.
Yep.
If he did that when everybody said it was possible, physics, science said that it was impossible, right? So I look at things in my life that people are saying is impossible, and I'm like, it's the farthest away from impossible. In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
yeah, the greatest word is impossible, saying I'm possible. God doesn't make
Right.
mistakes there. You know what I mean? It's all right in front of our face.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's a good mind. Obviously, a really good like demeanor and mindset, disposition to have, like to always see what's
Yeah,
possible because things aren't possible, right? Like the Roger Bannister has a good um, antidote to fall on. Like, yeah, there was everything was telling you no, but you did it, right? And you can do it. And now that it's possible, like that's just an example, right? Now you've seen it's been done. So, um, yeah, man, I love the perspective of just how you frame and kind of cut out the noise of
have to,
negativity, right? Especially nowadays.
have to.
Um, all right, so I want to move forward here, Zevin. Obviously, really kind of to get into the business, right? Really kind of your first build as you're building these companies, um, and kind of how you scaled. So, kind of launching into your entrepreneurship, right, journey. You launched
Yeah.
a marketing and SEO company in Oklahoma, actually around 2014, which I didn't know of, which was really interesting, with like no formal training in marketing or tech, uh, which is wild. You really taught yourself how to code via YouTube University, which is all of our best friends. And you figured out SEO from scratch. I guess my question for you there is like, what made you believe you could do something you had never done before? And what did those early days actually look like?
I mean, it all goes back to the same principle, right? It's understanding what we're truly capable of, right? Faith is
Mm-hmm.
believing in things unseen,
Right.
and so I always think about that. And I mean, I'll take you back, right? My initial idea was to be Adrian Peterson. When I started to look at
I agree.
uh, and reverse engineer things that you want in your life. I do this all the time. I reverse engineer the things that I want in my life. And then I ask the question. Metacognition is thinking about your thinking, right?
Yes.
So I'm
Yes.
always going to reverse engineer exactly what's happening versus what I want versus like is what gets me there even worth it? And
Right.
so in high school to college, I went to West Virginia State, was playing football, and I was like, dude, this was at the same time that Will Smith's Concussion was coming out. This was
Oh yeah.
also, yeah, this is also at
Yeah.
the same time where people were becoming more prolific and they were actually speaking transparently about not what they were going through, but what they've already had to overcome or
Mhm.
what they were creating, right? This was also at the onset of Shark Tank. So I was just kind of like I knew that there was something else. As a high schooler, in order to make a little bit more money, when my parents would say no, I had to find a solution, right? And so that solution usually was mowing the lawns. That solution was selling Liv Armstrong bands. I don't know if you even remember what those were,
Yeah, I
but
remember those, the yellow ones.
those
Yes.
yellow wristbands, dude. That was my first time sourcing things from like China, going to school with a whole bag of them things, selling it for
Wristband band.
$2 because I bought them at one. You know what I'm saying? Shoveling snow, just doing a whole bunch of random things to actually have the same things that my friends were already accustomed to. And
Right.
so going into college, I was looking for that next thing, right? I didn't know what Louis Vuitton was. I didn't know what a lot of the Paganis and these really expensive things
Mhm.
were. I just wanted to have like $100,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
I thought $100,000 was a billion back then. You know what I mean?
Man, we all
And
did.
and so it wasn't $1 million equation. It was like, hey, how do I get this? Because I think I could live forever. And
Right.
that was the misconception with my reverse engineering back then. But at that same time, rent in college was five hundred
Yeah.
dollars.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm
cheap.
doing the math on $500. That's 5 grand. You do 100,000, you could live for like 20 years. We're good, dude. What
Are
am
you
I
doing the
worried
math?
about? What am
Yeah,
I worried about? Oh my gosh. But I found a
that's funny.
guy. His name was Mark Roney. He
Yes.
came out to my college. He was my ex-girlfriend's best friend's boyfriend's best friend.
Mm.
Weird thing,
Yeah,
right?
hopefully someone's paying attention, they got that. We
Exactly.
need a bouncing ball. Follow
From
that.
Indiana as well. So I don't
Okay.
know why he came all the way out to West Virginia, but this was a kid who seemed as prolific as it came, right? He was doing the whole marketing thing.
Yeah.
He was driving the Infinity. He
Mhm.
basically didn't have any mommy or daddy help. And he was like, Zevin, I'm getting ready to do this new thing. You should leave college right now and let's go start selling marketing services to small mom and pop shops and firearm
Yeah.
companies. And I was like, sounds like a plan. Like, not
Right.
even
Sign me up.
I'm like, man, I can't play football anymore. I want to own the team. I'm not going to
Yeah.
own the team if I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? So let's find a
Exactly.
path to do that. And yeah, I left college, ended up going to a bunch of different conferences. So this is when we go to like trade shows back in the day.
Yep.
Um, talking to a whole bunch of people. And you got to remember, dude, I'm a black guy in Texas and Oklahoma who's at a gun convention. I think that there's only 2 of us there. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And I'm trying to sell them marketing services, and their average order volume is $200-$300, but their average profit is 20 or 30. So it's like selling a $500 website was crazy to them. Doing search engine optimization for them, that didn't even make any sense, dude. They didn't know how to spell SEO, you know? Like
Yeah.
it was definitely its own situation.
man.
But we got closer and closer to the top levels, right? We were talking to the Freedom Group. Those are the people
Yeah.
behind Remington. We
Yep.
tried to invent. This was my first like experiential experiment for like trying to invent new things. So we actually came out with something called, I don't remember the exact name we gave it because we were just like nerdy little children at that time, but I'll tell you what it did. It
Yeah, go ahead.
essentially allowed you to test out a scope before you bought the scope for your gun.
Mm.
So you'd be able to go online. So you know how online right now, dude, there's
They
so many different features for this, right? It's like
Yeah.
you can go on a watch website, upload a picture of your wrist, and automatically it shows you what the
What it
watch
looks
will look
like,
like on
yeah.
your wrist,
You were ahead of the
or
game.
glasses.
Or like
You can see what the
clothes and
glasses will look
paint.
like.
Yeah.
Dude, there's so many different, there's cool
Yeah.
things now. It wasn't
Yeah.
cool back then. We were trying to sell it to people who just didn't understand
Yeah.
it. But
Wrong
we got
people.
pretty close. What we did was we essentially did a frame by frame of like 1,000 pictures and then put it in. So when you scrolled up and down, you could see the magnification of each
Mm.
scope and each lens. But that was like the beginning of our entrepreneurship battle, where we were like kind of just trying to do everything that we were trying to do.
Yeah.
It ended up kind of falling apart, and that was specifically because I believe that my partner then, there was 2 partners, both of them were very interesting personalities.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a very interesting personality too, but
Yep.
they were
Yep.
even more interesting personalities than me. And yeah, I think that it just came down to everybody was at this time focused on like Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs. There was the Apple movies that were coming out at the time,
Yeah, yep.
and so
Facebook. Yeah.
the treatment of how he would treat partners would be very similar and in parallel to how Steve Jobs would treat his employees and partners.
Mhm.
And so we
Mhm.
ended up leaving. Like, I think he literally went on a date with some girl, and me and Ish, essentially just were like, peace. We left,
Yeah.
got in the car, we drove from Oklahoma to Texas. We had one of the clients because uh, the partner that we left, he was just like the mouthpiece. He was just selling,
Yes.
but he wasn't like
Yep.
actually doing the development. It was
Behind the
Ish that was
scenes,
doing the
yeah.
development. And so I had the developer in the car with me. He didn't have a car, so he got in with me. We were gone, and then we went to one of our clients' places, another firearm place. It was called the 460 Roll-In, bro. Yeah,
Okay.
this might go all the way over everybody's head, but it turned a 45 ACP into a 44 Magnum revolver. So it would pack a punch. It would basically hit like you're shooting a bear, but it was with like a 9mm
As
or
a
like
handgun, yeah.
a regular handgun, but it had the recoil that would like literally blast somebody's head off. And so we worked with him for like the longest time. He actually let us live in his house, bro.
That's crazy.
Like, dude, there are so many. These are stories that I have
These are
never
good
like.
stories. This sounds like a movie we're getting into.
These are crazy stories because like we had Thomas, right, that let us into his house. I talked to him like a year ago about this and was like, dude, you just let some Indian kid and a black kid who were only working with you for like a month and a half come live with you, your wife, and your children? He's like,
Right.
yeah, we did that. There was a time that he tried to kick us out because Buddy, my partner at the time, Ish, he had like this drinking issue. And so
Yeah,
at
yeah.
that time, he tried to kick us out. And you know what we did? We went into the Tulsa parking lot, and there was, I keep on saying this, there's only so many of us
Yes.
down south, right? And so I
Yeah, yeah.
found another one of us, and it was a
Tricked
nice
them up.
building. It was called, I think it was the Mayo Building in Tulsa. It was like the middle
Mhm.
of Tulsa. I went into the parking lot and I just started talking to that guy. He said he needed some help. I helped him with his groceries. I was like, dude, I'm staying in the car tonight, but if you let me help you, dude, I'll help you with anything that you need. And he let us stay with him at that
Look at
point.
you.
It was,
That's
dude, crazy, crazy times, bro. Crazy times, to be honest.
wheeling and dealing back in the day,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
had to
yeah.
make it happen.
Had to
Yeah, so
every
that's great.
time.
So that's it sounds like that was kind of what was going on in the early days after it kind of went
Mhm.
up and came back, came down, you got out of it. Um, man, okay. I guess kind of going back to like what you were learning on YouTube. So I know that we kind of went through this extravagant story here to kind of reel us back in. What was there? Was there any specific moment like in your YouTube learning process where like something clicked? Because like for those who don't know you, right? Like you're very extraordinary. You're very smart, very intelligent. Um, in my opinion, you definitely have the like engineering maybe background, just naturally. But was there a process? Was there a point in that process of YouTube, like where it just clicked? Like you went from like, oh, I'm following the tutorial to like I actually understand what we're building here. When you were learning from scratch.
I mean, so I don't have an engineering background. My father was an
Yes,
engineer. But for me, similar to like how engineers are brought up, right? They're always asking
correct.
how, and then
The
they
thinking
are reverse
process.
engineering and they're
Yep.
looking at how it's built, right? They're the best computer engineers are the ones who are taking the computer apart and then trying to rebuild it. I didn't have that luxury. No, I mean, from the firearm space into like the broader scheme of marketing, we just had clients that we had to fulfill for, right?
Hmm.
And Ish was the developer, dude. I'm not even talking smack, bro. Like he knows this story. I know this story. We have come back in grips with what actually took place. No, dude, the guy, what actually happened. Remember Thomas that I was just telling you that we lived in
Yes.
his place? Bro, tell me why I'm at Wendell's, right? Which was the guy that I met in the parking lot, and he let me sleep in, and we were all in the same building, but I was on a higher floor because Wendell was a lobbyist, and Thomas and Ish were in Thomas's place because Ish was still doing the things, and me and Ish had like this weird falling out thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
what came to pass was Buddy took their car and got a DUI.
Come on
He
now.
he got a DUI, and so I had to service this one client. Ish and I were having this falling out because he made us look bad to the client after
Hmm.
having taken the car and like rolled it over and totaled it. Like it was
That's a
so
bad. That's a bad.
bad.
Yeah, that's a bad
And
situation.
so with this, I was like, man, some people are lucky and they do these things because it's something that they're excited about. For me, I was like, I have this accounting client. I have to fulfill on this tax software that he's trying to
Yes.
create. I no longer have a developer. And I wasn't thinking like nowadays, I'm thinking virtual assistants, I'm thinking executive
Uh-huh.
assistants, I'm thinking agentic bots that can do it. Nah, bro.
Not back then.
Back then it was YouTube, it was Reddit forums, it was prompting, but not on Chat GPT. It was prompting on Google, asking the right questions. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Hey, this was before drag and drop was even a thing, and somehow the client wanted to do a drag and drop software for this accounting thing, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you one thing. I gotta pay because at this point this was a transition from Wendell's place to our own place on South Mingo Road. So like
Yes.
we were paying $1,800 between the three of us, me, Michael, my now partner, and then a guy named Justin Allen. I think you know Justin, right?
I think I know.
Have you
Yeah.
ever met Justin? Maybe.
I think I
Yeah. So
have.
we had an apartment at this time, and so we had to pay bills.
Yep.
And I knew I wasn't about to tell the accounting client that I couldn't do something that was actually going to pay the bills of
Yes.
our first apartment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This
It's
was
good.
our first
Yeah.
apartment that we actually had ourselves, and so I was on YouTube ferociously, bro. This was before Adderall was a thing. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to stay up for 5 days
3 days. Yeah,
straight
yeah.
to get this done, to learn as much as humanly possible, so that way I could fulfill on the contract. Yeah, dude, this
Hmm.
wasn't even like these weren't big contracts. It was like $5,000, bro. I think I got
But
twenty
but
five hundred
back
dollars up
then,
front. Exactly. Back then, that's a
back
lot.
then, yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, that's
Especially
crazy.
because it's like $600, 1,800 divided by 3,
Yep.
$600. I gotta pay $600. If I get 5 grand, I can pay for 4 months, 5 months,
Mhm.
you know? And so, yeah, it was really
Yeah,
just a learning lesson of attempting to fulfill the obligations that I had already set out to do.
absolutely. Yeah, you're committed. Yeah, you're committed to the result. First off, I want to clear one thing. I wasn't for those probably tuning in, right? I guess I believe Zevin has an engineer thinking system mindset. I know you don't have an engineer degree. That was just one. But two, we could probably all agree that you have an interesting life. So for those who want to maybe make a movie out of your life and your experiences, they can definitely reach out to you.
It's funny.
Um, but also too, you kind of took my next question out of it because you talked about kind of that whole experience and obviously the falling out through the gun industry and the financial strain. I guess was there a moment, right, through like any entrepreneur, right? You're in this thing, you're passionate about this thing, and you want it to work, right? You wanted to work. There's bills, there's things you want to do. Was there a moment where you seriously like considered stopping, or like where the gap between what you were building and what you were actually experiencing felt too wide or got too wide?
I would say that most people who know me know that I have something called delusional optimism.
Yes.
Now, to answer your original question, is there ever a point where I feel like stopping? I would say it's every day, right?
Hmm.
I think that if my life was dictated by my feelings, I would get nothing done. You
Yeah,
know,
it's
like that's
when it
the
hurts.
truth
Yeah, that's
because
real.
I don't feel like doing a lot of things. I don't feel like going to the gym every day. I
Yep.
definitely didn't feel like disappointing clients and then telling them that they still had to pay, even though we're only
Hmm.
75 or 80% done, but it's been 6 months, right? I didn't feel like doing a lot of things that I had to do in order to survive,
Exactly.
but my overall agenda was surviving, right? So like you can't
Hmm.
necessarily give up on the fact that like I while I feel like my parents have loved me my entire life, the last thing I wanted to do was get in the car, pay my last several dollars to pay for gas, and then end up back in Crystal Lake where everybody that I know already thought I was gonna fail. And so I think that I was motivated
Got
by the fact
divorced.
that
Yeah.
I can't let these people be right.
Yeah.
You know
Can't
what
see
I'm saying?
anybody see me go down. Like I'm gonna.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
a thing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, dude? It's just not
Like
a thing.
don't. Yeah. That's real though. That's a good motivating, motivation kind of factor there to keep you going.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. All right. So you pivoted from the marketing company, right? From firearms to a broader client base. So this is like
Mhm.
churches, right? Local businesses, diverse in industries. What did you kind of learn about reading a market and adjusting quickly that you still apply today? I mean, making that pivot.
Yeah. Um, there's a story. I don't know where I heard it. It might have been on Warren Buffett's documentary.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that, but there's a documentary of Warren, and there's probably several different things. I look for repetition more
Mhm.
often than I look for singular things to kind of point out.
Outliers.
So I look for like
Yeah.
multiple stories that tell the same thing. But the story of Warren Buffett was that him and his roommate, they obviously went to college together. They had the same education level, but they had different
Mhm.
ambitions. One of them went to go towards like metal and woodworking and just doing a commoditized business, whereas we know what Warren Buffett's doing today. So whereas Warren ended up having billions of dollars, the guy, while also having still succeeded
Yeah.
in a way less proportion. And
Correct.
so I'm always looking for, and even up until today, right? I always have the prepared mind. I call it the prepared mind because you need to be prepared for opportunity to knock. And if you're not prepared, or if you don't have eyes to see, even if it
Mhm.
knocks, or even if it's like saying, "Hey, hello, I'm here," you're not even going to be able to see it. You're not going to be able to hear it,
Correct.
right? And
Correct.
so I think that it really just came down to okay, here are my goals, here are my aspirations, this is where I want to get to. Is what I'm doing right now going to get me there? And is it in line with who I say I want to be in the future? Right?
Mhm.
It's very hard. Uh, I mean, as you know, for the longest time, right? Before, my goals were always to own the football team, have $1 billion, do all those things. Well, you can't do that if you're only making $100,000 in a year, right? And so
Right.
it's always looking for that next opportunity, right? It's talking to the potato farmer who's doing $50 million a year and asking how he did that. If it's talking to the
Correct.
guy who created the $1 billion shoe company, right? And figuring out, okay, how'd you do that? And what was it that made you go into that industry? And nowadays there's things called TAM, right? Total adjustable or obtainable
Mhm.
market, and understanding the actual market economics of each individual industry that you're looking at and saying, okay, well, if I'm in this space, this is what the average person is actually earning, or this is what the
Earning,
average person
producing.
is actually doing. So reverse
Yep.
engineering, like from the whole, the macro, and then going super deep into the micro and looking at it for what it is.
Mm. I love that, man.
For
I
sure.
love the intricate, like, just thinking of that, like, the systems thinking, and like you said,
Yeah.
from macro to micro, where is the average? Where's the repetition? Where can I kind of fit to what you said earlier, right? Anthropology and studying human nature and humans, where can I fit in this space? And how can I either expand my position in it and then find the flaws and then either, adjust them or, stay away from them and go a different route so I can create my own path, right? So, um,
Exactly.
very much good thematic lessons there for those who are listening or watching this here eventually on YouTube. If like those are good lessons to have when you're navigating through business. Um, Kind of my next question, kind of similar to what I kind of asked, but a little bit different. But how do you know when a pivot is the right move versus when it's just avoidance? Like when staying in something uncomfortable is actually the right call. 'Cause I think that's a lot of that can be difficult for a lot of people, but especially entrepreneurs and people in certain fields of kind of weighing that balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question. How do you know when it's the right time to leave?
Right.
Especially because there's something called the cost fallacy that I'm sure most people know, right? That technically means, the definition of the sunk cost fallacy means that uh, depending upon the amount of time that you put into something doesn't mean that it's actually worth it.
Mhm.
It just comes down to reverse engineering again. Like, hey, listen, if this is what I say that I want, is what I'm doing today going to get me there, right? If my goal is to own, let's just say, my one of my good friends, Steve, right?
Yeah.
It's either I could work for Steve and drive the trucks and drop off the dumpsters and make 80 or $120,000 a year, or I can attempt to be Steve and own Steve's Humpty Dump, right?
Correct.
They're extremely different paths. And what's even more difficult is the fact that a lot of people will tell themselves that they're making progress, knowing that they're driving the truck and dropping off the dumpsters, but they're not Steve, right? In order to
Mm,
be Steve, you have to do different things, right? You have to
exactly.
ask different questions. You might have to raise a couple dollars, right? 100, 200, $500,000. You might need to start buying trucks. You might need to actually take risks that make you feel a
Mhm.
little bit more uncomfortable. But that's when it comes down to asking the right questions, talking to the right people, and studying the right things. What did they do? Right? Because I mean,
Exactly.
this was something that people in high school used to make fun of me for, but I joined Amway, and I think that the biggest thing that I took away from Phil Wallace and Amway was like the cassettes, the tapes that they had you listen to, the positive mindset shit, right?
Mhm.
Like I think that that
Affirmation,
stuff
yeah.
is so important because it puts you in the frame of reference for what it really takes. And then you're just looking and studying what those people are doing. And when you read enough books and you listen to enough audios and you see what Walt Disney did and you see what
Mhm.
Colonel Sanders of Kentucky Fried Chicken did, and you look at Michael Dell and how so many people said no to his laptop, right? You realize that you're not actually like it's almost worse to not take the risk because he took it, he failed, but his failure was success. You know what I'm saying? So like
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you just look at the risk versus the reward. You study what other people have done, you go towards that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and two, I think having still the commitment to do it, to the question I know I asked was like, how do you know when to and when not to, right? I think to your point, um, your reasoning makes sense. That fits. That's so true. I think also there's emotional ties to people because whether it's your baby, you created this idea or business, or if you're just in it, right? You feel like I put all the sweat and tears and time in it, to your point. But is it really getting off the ground? And
I
then,
mean, I have a perfect example, dude. Bloom Ball.
yeah, we're gonna actually go to that next.
Yeah, but
We're gonna
I'll
go to that
just
next.
before we go to it, I'll tell you exactly. Like, dude, everything was looking great for the longest time, and this is
Yeah,
why, like, I'm a big proponent of free markets because I
yeah.
know what they actually do versus what they tell us that they do. Right?
Hmm.
In a free market, every entrepreneur is basically open to dictate the price. But as multiple market participants are dictating price, do you know what that does to the price? It lowers it. So Bloomble it was in an industry that had gigantic margins, and there's a book called your first no, it's not your first 100 million. It's how to lose $100 million. You got to look it up. But he
Put it
starts
in.
talking about
Yeah.
industries, and he says that industries start out exciting and like there's all of these gigantic margins, but there's only one thing that you can be certain of is that the margins aren't going to stick there. And the only reason that the margins
Yeah.
would stick there is because there's patents and proprietary technology that
Yeah.
people can't replicate. But if it's not like that, well, you'll have a lot of market participants and everything will go extremely low and it won't have the same margins, and then you'll be competing upon volume, attempting to take over
Mm.
entire market sectors as the like
Price gets.
monopolist. You
Yeah.
know, you have to be a monopolist, and if you're not going to be a monopolist in the situation that you're attempting to stay in, you shouldn't stay in it. You know, so like we look at Bloomberg like that, right? Well, dude, I
Mm.
could have stayed in that and the foundation of hemp.
Yeah.
And honestly, I could have pivoted to other angles of it, right? Instead of
Absolutely.
staying in the supply chain side and doing the psychoactive things, because there are people who are successful, but those are people who are again super focused on being monopolists in that
Hmm.
space, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, that's another like I said, you're hitting some good themes there too, to the whole monopoly thing and price gets not suppressed, but it comes down to your point, right? You have a lot of market players in there. Of course the price is gonna come down. Then you're fighting volume and then you gotta start Pac-Man, different companies and different businesses so you can merge and right, um continue to stay afloat, right? To maximize that margin. So good, a lot of economic uh points is what I'm getting at that were shared that I think that's from your experience, right? The real reality of what free markets look like.
And that was just to
Uh,
answer your question on
yeah,
a business side. I mean, if it's an
exactly.
emotional thing, it's totally different, right?
Yeah,
But that's almost easier, right?
yeah,
Like you can literally look at it as, is this person treating me the way that I would like to be treated? Have I already articulated the way that I want to be treated in multiple
yep.
different ways? Have they displayed their ability to want to change? If they haven't, you're in the wrong place, right?
Yes, time to go. You got to go. Real quick, everything Zevin and I are talking about comes down to internal infrastructure, building a human OS that can handle pressure, convert anxiety into fuel, and keep you grounded no matter what you're facing. If you're ready to upgrade your internal operating system, follow Zevin's daily breakdown of health, mindset, and personal optimization on Instagram at Zevin Clark. Tap the link in the show notes or follow at Zevin Clark on Instagram to join the community and start building from the inside out. Speaking of Bloomo, right, that's where I want to go to next. So I want to talk about obviously you scaling this from 100 people, right, to 100 people, excuse me, in the CBD and hemp industry, which you kind of just talked about, um, and really kind of growing that really after the 2018 Farm Bill. So you obviously opened the 2018 Farm Bill, for those who are listening, obviously opened the hemp industry that kind of created that kind of wild, wild west there, if you will, in that industry. You built Bloomble into I don't know, a real operation. And I personally, I remember going out there and thinking like, man, how did you build this?
Mm.
Right. Like as a friend, like this was awesome to see the operation from A to Z, how fascinated you were with it. Um, and just the systems, the quality, right? The quality and the refinement and just being dialed in, right? So, anyways, I think for me, hosting the show, going back to that time, was just really fascinating at the whole process. But you built it to 100 employees, right? $100,000 a month in revenue, supply chain relationships with manufacturers and distributors. Um, Walk us through kind of like how that actually got built, right? So for those who are listening to entrepreneur, people are just curious of like, hey, maybe I want to build a business one day. Like, what was that actually like when you built it, and where did you start, and what moved it forward?
Yeah. We were doing over $100,000 revenue. I think our biggest month was like 1.5 million in revenue, just so we're clear.
Nice.
But
Put an asterisk
how
there,
did,
just want to make sure.
yeah, how did it start? I mean, I think that it depends upon who you ask, right? On
Yeah.
how it actually got started. And I think that there were very interesting characters that allowed us to get to the size and sheer
Hmm.
volume that we got to.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a situation. Remember Michael from Oklahoma that I was telling earlier? We've just stayed in touch, right? We were kids who grew up in rival schools, but same area, so probably
Yep.
15 or 20 minutes away from each other. But we'd play football together, and then we'd have similar aspirations, right? There's only so many people in every town who actually want to not only like have what we say we want to have, but
Hmm.
are willing to do what it takes to attain it, right? And so we've
Absolutely.
always stayed in touch. We were doing random deals. This was a time where him and I had put some money into something called the Good Life, which was like a cannabis delivery service in California. So we got that up to like 50 or 60. I think the highest there was like $80,000 a month where we were delivering
Mm.
cannabis to like five or no, I think it was up to 10 major cities all around Los Angeles. So West
Mm.
Hollywood, East
All right,
Hollywood.
okay.
We threw a gigantic Super Bowl party in Elton John's house. This was like 19 or 20 years old. But
Wow.
we were really studying who we were working with, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
there was a situation, and this is why good life is no longer a thing. We like to get over our britches, man. We like to do as big a deals as humanly possible, especially if it comes with the right reward. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so the reason that that business is believe me, I'm going to get to your answer, right? But
No, yeah.
the
You're
reason why
fine.
that business is no longer in business is because there was a transaction where we tried to do like a 200-pound deal. Everything was going well. Uh, our partner was in that was basically like, don't worry, everything's going to go well. We have some security and people who are going to help the transaction go
Hmm.
through fluidly, do all that, blah, blah, blah. Well,
Right.
it came push to
Yep.
shove. Dude, the customers came. They had the briefcase, similar to a movie, bro. I'm not
Come on
joking.
now.
Like there's
Yes.
so many things that kind of seem like a movie, like that I'm lying. But like, no, dude, the guy showed up. They had the bling, big dudes, bro. Uh, in the suitcase, the top level was hundreds, the bottom was ones. They got it all packed up. They left. Our guy didn't even check. So we got like 6 grand and not 160 grand because the value of that
Oh
was a lot.
man.
And yeah, that was like the end of good life. But that's how we started to look at,
Jeez.
man, who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are these the type of people that we want to be surrounding ourselves with? What
Yeah.
is the major purpose of this? Like, is our entire life just supposed to be about making money, or is it supposed to be about impact? Is it supposed to be about passion? Is it supposed to be about purpose? And this was at the same time that Kelly was always trying new things like CBD oils because she had
Hmm.
thyroid cancer at the time. And so I just am always kind of reverse engineering different things. And I'm like, man, what does the supply chain look like for CBD? And so the
Yeah.
same thing that we were doing in THC, we ended up doing in CBD. Michael, his parents were going through a divorce. They both coincidentally moved to Denver, Colorado, like 15 minutes away. So Michael
Hey, hey.
wasn't staying in Crystal Lake anymore. And this was a
Yeah.
time that we had an apartment in Schaumburg, Illinois. And he's like,
Yep.
dude, if we really want to get things rocking and rolling, you're going to move to Denver. So Michael's mom brought us in to her house so we could
Mm.
run Bloomble out of her garage, bro. Like we
Love it.
ran Bloomble out of her garage. Dude, there are so many. I have like videos and pictures, but her boyfriend at the time built us like a little like side office inside of the garage. We didn't move out until the day that we brought home like 500 pounds of hemp, and the whole neighborhood smelled like it, bro. And dude, his mom, there's no way that she thought we were gonna grow as big as we did, as fast as we did. But the moment that we brought those big tubes of hemp
Yeah.
into the house, she was like, "Okay, this is great. You guys got to leave." And
Yeah,
so
it's time to go. Yeah, you gotta
we
get up
started
out of here.
looking for houses. We
Yeah.
started looking for warehouses. That's when we had already established strong relationships with suppliers and
Yep.
vendors. Some of the suppliers and vendors actually wanted us to start working out of their offices, talking about investment dollars and things of that nature. And because we were just such an integral part of some of these market participants' businesses and their
Hmm.
infrastructure, they just let us get away with a lot more things than we really would have, right? So we were
Yeah,
selling
absolutely.
dang near everything. We were selling the machinery and the equipment. We were selling seeds. We were selling distillate and
Yep.
oils and tinctures and isolate and scientific everything that you could think of. Dealing with every scientist humanly possible. Getting to talk to them, understanding more. I mean, that was YouTube University, but in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
talking to some of these people who actually went to school for like what I mean, what is it? Organic chemistry? I don't even know what they
yeah.
study to get
Yeah.
into it. But it's like, yeah, we were talking to them every day. Here's how isolate's made. Here's how it's derived. Here's how you
Mm,
extract it. Here's how you distill it. Here's what you do to make it more white and
yeah,
clear.
yeah.
Here's how you increase its purity. This is what you do to create some type of liposomal effect. So it actually bypasses your liver. And so it doesn't
Mm,
degrade inside of your gut. Like there was so much stuff that we learned inside of like a couple years that man,
yeah.
it only made sense for it to work out. You know, we were inundated, right? I say that the best way to learn is just being so in it, right? They say that if you want to learn Spanish, you shouldn't go to class, you should go to Mexico,
Yes. Yeah, you
right?
immerse yourself in it. Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I think at that point too, I think just as a friend from afar, it was like you knew so much. But to your point, right? I didn't know the behind the scenes. Like you're working with, scientists and doctors and all these other companies. So you're like I said, getting inundated and um just getting flooded with all this information, right, on a daily basis. That it was hard not for it to stick because I'm sure there was overlap on certain things that it just naturally grew. This is more of my question. Maybe those are curious too. Like when you built it, was a lot of those relationships built from the ground up? Like you had to go out there and cold call people, or was that like, hey, we had a footing in THC, this kind of segued to to CBD and hemp. Um, I guess my question was that transition a little bit easier, or was it like, hey, once again, back to scratch? We need to learn more about CBD. This is different from THC, right? From the psychoactive perspective, other properties, and then just call companies, or was that you already had semi relationships built?
We try to take nothing from the THC side into the CBD side because all those people
Smart.
were interesting. All of those
Yeah.
people were very, very, very interesting. I think that those people tell themselves lies, that they're doing
Yeah.
things that they're not actually doing. And so, Michael and I, and even Kelly, we're just not shy when it comes to like our aspirations, right? Like
Hmm.
we had things on the walls and stuff like, hey, we're gonna get to 10 million a month and nobody's gonna get in our way. And so, dude, it's not even that we would just call; we'd show up. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Hey,
Yeah.
listen,
Yeah. In
like
the flesh.
we have this customer who's going to be paying this dollar figure. I don't know what price you're about to sell it at, or you want to sell it at. But if you want to sell it in this is what you're going to be at, right? And so
Yeah.
we'd show up, we'd fly to, I mean, I don't know, 500, 1,000 flights back from Oregon, California, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, everywhere. Relationships with all of the farms, relationships with all of this vendors, relationships with all the uh, gummy manufacturers, topical manufacturers, like
Hmm.
literally everybody. We'd just show up, we'd make the calls, we'd go to the conferences, we'd talk to everybody. You know what I'm saying? We just want to
Yeah.
talk to everybody.
I love it. The more we're talking, man, I think we're getting closer to a Netflix special that we need to have. That's what we're getting closer to.
Right. That's fun.
With
That's
behind the
funny, dude.
scenes. Um, was there a single like I guess was there a single most important relationship or decision that moved Bloomble from like that small operation in the garage, right, at Mike's mom's garage, to something that required 100 people to run? Like just that jump. Was there a decision or relationship that really kind of scaled that forward?
I mean, I feel like there was, like, several different relationships that got us there. God rest his soul, Armand Manawala, he was a guy who ran ADM. He was raising, like, 20 or 30 million, doing, I think, 75 million a year. He
Mm,
let us be in his property, and he'd give us transactions and deals that we could run and use that to kind of scale out different things. There was a lot of
yeah.
different farmers that we were working with. There was a guy named Ryan Davies who helped us, who gave us some money. One of the first people who really believed in us was a guy named Jitin Patel, out of Chicago. He gave us like, I don't even know, 25 or 50,000. So when Michael's mom kicked us out, he actually gave us the bread so we could stay in like a nice place, bro.
You said
Like I'm talking
nice.
about, this was probably a 1.5 or $2 million house that there was only three of us in. But we
Okay.
could store everything that we needed there, and we
Yeah,
stayed there
yeah.
for like 3 weeks.
Awesome. I mean, I was just curious. That was just my one little tidbit there. So you obviously created, or you had, excuse me, 110,000 in monthly overhead at the peak, right? When this thing was, moving. Right. That is a number that creates a very specific kind of pressure every single month, as I'm sure. What did managing a business at that overhead level teach you about the difference between revenue and profit? And secondly to that, and about what it actually means to run a company versus build one. So kind of two questions in that one there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it taught me a lot of different things. I think, when it really comes down to it, you just need to be more cognizant of the people that you're hiring, why you're
Hmm.
hiring them. I don't want to agree with this, but the more that I've listened to so many, like, prolific entrepreneurs, like
Yeah.
the Ray Dalios of the world or, Daniel Ek of Spotify. If you listen to these guys, they'll tell you, like, it's extremely important to know the personality of your employees, right?
Hmm.
What do they actually do? What drives them? Why do they do the things that they do? Have they ever been excellent at anything?
Yeah.
Like, I think that that's something that, like, an interview question that everybody should ask if you're hiring somebody is like, "Hey, dude, tell me something that you were spectacular at." And if they don't have an answer, it's hard to hire them, at least for something that
Hmm.
actually matters. You know what I mean? Because they might not take it seriously, and then you'll just see things crumbling down. Or if you don't have the right incentive structure, it's Warren Buffett's partner, Charlie
Yeah.
Munger, says, "Show me your incentives, and I'll show you your future." I think that if the right incentive structure is not put in place for people to do the right thing for what they've been hired for, then it's just
Hmm.
gonna fall apart altogether. I think that that's extremely important. But now I'm at the stage where it's like, I don't necessarily like, I like the idea of building because it tells a story, a certain type of story about a human being, but, like, dude, I think it's also so much easier to be like an Elon Musk figure and find the companies that are also, like,
Doing well.
already established a little bit, you know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Finding the capital for it, and then just helping distribute and getting it more success rather than, like, going from 0 to 1 like Peter Thiel says.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, that's a good answer. I'm sure there's a lot of lessons in that time, that have, stayed with you today. So, you got your first real mentors, during kind of that era, right, through Bloomble that you mentioned, experienced entrepreneurs, right, who shaped how you thought about invoicing, operations, and just the business model itself. What did that mentorship actually give you, um, that the experience alone couldn't? If you have an answer there, and then secondly to that too, Devin, like, what do you wish you had found earlier in that process?
Yeah. To answer your second question, what I wish I would have found earlier is humility, right?
Mhm.
To find and ask the right questions, to hear what people are saying, to address the problem early, even if it is a problem that will be uncomfortable in the time, right? I
Yeah.
think that's extremely important. And as a younger entrepreneur, it's hard to want to have to deal with conflict because
Yeah.
a lot of things do come with random amounts of conflict. But your first initial question, uh, most people don't even know this, but have you heard? You've obviously know who Alex Hormozy is, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Our first paid mentor is now his CEO, Sharon Srivatsa. I was listening to
Oh,
a
crazy.
podcast. I think it was called the Passionate Few. I think it's called with
Yeah.
Omar Aletar, and I heard that this guy was like a grinder. He took like a company from 300 million to 3.4 billion called Telus. I heard about him scrounging in garbage cans for Pop Tarts so he could eat that day. That was Sharon. And so I reached out to
Wow.
Sharon and I was like, dude, you should oversee what we're doing. Just join our board, give us more information.
Come
And
on.
yeah,
Come
that was
on.
that was the first person that we brought on, and it was just like it was a standardization thing. It was lessons in scale. It was just like there are some things that you'll go through that like you just won't actually know unless somebody has already gone through it. And so it was
Mhm.
like him. There was another guy that was our CFO that ended up selling his company XPO Logistics to Brad Jacobs. That guy had like a lot of like really interesting lessons to learn as far as like how entrepreneurs are supposed to do something, how you're supposed
Yeah.
to raise specific funds, what a deck looks like. We've had guys like Nirav who have came in and helped fund at the later stages with getting farm initiatives, getting distributors, things of that nature. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of things can be more easily attained having somebody who's already gone through it, right? And like
Mhm.
if we're talking about a distribution thing, right? Where like oh, and that's where a lot of businesses fail in the first place, right? Not having the proper distribution channels.
Yep.
That's all relational. That is a
Yeah.
good boys club. That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
1000% a good boys club. And you should pay whatever it takes to get into it because
Yep.
without it, man, it's the difference between being worth 1,000,000 and $1 billion. I mean, you see a lot of these company Grunes just got acquired for I think it was $1.4 billion, and it was specifically because they're in
They
the
have.
good boys club. They're in Walmart, they're in Target, they're in this, they're in
Mhm.
that, and so it makes it simple for other people to wanna invest into because now it just comes down to making more products under the brand.
Yep. Absolutely, man. It's huge. Those are obviously all valuable lessons. In that adventure in your business and moving forward. I want to shift gears here to Zevin and kind of go to after Bloomble, right? So you kind of been on the stage of building companies, but you got into healthcare, right? And kind of ran into this time around COVID, and then also the education of just failure in general. So kind of getting into your healthcare adventures with Revolution RX and the Apothecary. So you launched both these companies, right? Revolution RX and Apothecary, which were healthcare businesses that scaled to real revenue, but didn't kind of reach to profitability from what you shared. Obviously, COVID kind of hit in the middle of that, so that obviously tore a lot of people up and just business in general. We all had to pivot. Um, Employee reliability became a serious problem, and then as you went through that, how to learn. But if you can walk me through that season, kind of honestly, kind of what that looked like and what was actually happening. Like, what did it cost? What did it cost to you, and maybe potentially even the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think that both aren't here anymore for a specific reason. They will be rebirthed in a different way. I mean, I think that there are very interesting things that I've been learning as far as like uh there was a documentary that I was just watching. Hold on, it's called The Magic Wa-
Hmm.
Apple. Hold on, dude. I'm only searching it because it's so good. Hold on, Apple documentary, and it will complete this.
Yeah, it's fine.
General Magic. It's called
General
General
Magic.
Magic. And
Okay.
so in General Magic, you see how the iPhone was created. You see Apple and like all of the problems that surrounded it. General Magic was a company that was spun out by Apple to create the iPhone. They actually were too
Hmm.
early, right? They were way too early. They were working on things that it makes sense now,
Yeah,
but
just
like it
ahead
didn't
of its
make
time.
sense before. Yeah, and so, I think that the apothecary is, like, before its time, right? I think that eventually people are gonna get so sick and tired of what the FDA is telling us, right? Or with COVID, we learned that we can't necessarily trust every mRNA vaccine,
Yeah.
right? There are certain things that, I think that humanity is going to evolve to wanna take into their own hands to understand and to learn, and the apothecary was, a brand that sat there to allow you to understand herbology, right? It was allow you to understand different things as far as like what we're doing to the earth and what we're
Mhm.
wasting versus not wasting, right? I think that the other thing that I learned at the apothecary was that it is location, 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 and it is almost more worth it to spend more money on an amazing location than it is to save money on a terrible location, right? Because
Mm.
we had a location that was like what I would consider trash, right? And maybe the landlord hears this. I think his property's trash, right? I think that it's in a decent area, but like, dude, here's the thing, bro. We'd show up and the day before there was like gunshots in our neighbor's thing, dude. Where like
Oh
people
yeah,
were
yeah,
dying and like the whole thing. And it was just like, not only is that happening, but also I'm dealing with like employees not showing up, and then I gotta show up and do their thing, and it's a Saturday or a Sunday, and like I'm there, but like why? Like especially for something that's like just over breaking even, man. I'm not in these things to make $1,000 or $2,000. There are a
exactly.
lot more things I'd rather do than make $1,000 or $2,000 spending a lot of my time allocated toward
Hmm.
it. And so that's what I learned with Bloomville Apothecary. It really comes down to having the right location. I think that incentives again are extremely important for employees. That way
Yep.
they show up, you don't. Similar to like in real estate, you have property managers and they have a vested interest in the upside. They better show up.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're not getting what they said that what we told them that they were gonna get. It's that simple. And
Hmm.
then Revolution RX was just, I still am going to spin out something along the lines of Revolution RX. It's just like we were saying earlier, right?
Yeah.
Taking accountability for one's own health and being proactive about our healthcare, right? Getting the scans done, understanding food allergy, understanding what blood
Yeah.
work means, uh, taking pharmaceuticals if absolutely necessary, but more importantly, taking nutraceuticals that allow you to have a proper A1C, right? A proper everything. I
Yeah.
think that there's so many different things that you need as far as like our biology and our makeup that could become super transparent. And as technology advances, I think that it's only going to become more easy for us as civilization to really understand how to prevent disease, right? And I think that it's gonna be extremely difficult to prevent all disease, but there are a lot of diseases that are just based off of inflammation, right? Keeping
Yeah.
ourselves stressed. There are a lot of diseases that are just based off of the fact that we do not work out. I was just looking at something that said, people who play tennis regularly exceed those who don't work out at all. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah. I
that's
believe it.
insane to think about. The people who aren't going to
Just
the
that small.
gym and compounding and making sure that you have, the right muscle density in your arms and in your legs, that translates to longevity, right? So I'm not talking about running, but I am talking about compounding lifts, and so
Yeah.
that's really what Revolution was
Movement.
about. It was about just allowing humanity to understand what was going on and creating solutions around the complexity of our health.
Yeah. Honestly, too, I'll be excited when you spin those out because I think you were hitting on, especially at that time. It's like 2020, right? We're coming out of COVID, governmental stuff, politics, right? Like you said, transparency, and even so now, right? 6 years removed, I think it's even more important. I think the apothecary is hitting on, like you said, the herbs and plants and like the waste and what we're doing from a sustainable standpoint, or regenerative practices too, depending on what field you're in. I think people, and this is my assessment, right? So this is not me being maybe having the data, but the scan I'm getting is that people want to get back to the source, whether that's from the apothecary standpoint of the herbs, right? And having that avenue, and then also on the other end, the preventative healthcare, of how to learn about these diseases and overcome them, but also our health and our well-being as humans, as a civilization. I think having that transparency and then having the science to back it up, um, at a deeper scale, I think those two pillars in themselves can move mountains. And I think those are two things I think would be great to see you kind of come back and spin them out in a different light. So from afar, I think those are two things that would be still needed, still value.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
Couldn't agree more.
Um, so you obviously you've been honest about the fact that some of what you were building during that period were driven by obligation as much as really as passion. And that you're still working out how much of your current work is driven by genuine desire versus just a sense of what you're supposed to be doing, right? Which is really, I think, two important distinctions to realize for any person kind of building something. Um, and really, that's a real question, like I said, to be sitting with. What does it feel like to be in that honest place right now between those two thought processes?
Yeah, so I mentioned, Hugo earlier,
Yeah.
and the question that we always come back to is, like, how many of us are being honest with ourselves? Because if you
Hmm.
can't be honest with yourself, you're gonna lie to the world, even if it's unintentional,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so I just try to write out. I try and listen and record. I mean, a lot of the videos that I put out on social media are a conversation with myself, right? Being super transparent, honest with how I should have handled the specific situation
Hmm.
or how I'm going to handle the next one, right? And then the best thing that could possibly happen in those instances after having given it a concentration of energy over
Yep.
thinking about each individual issue that has taken place. So, I mean, how important is honesty right now? I think that it's the most important thing. I think that it's extremely important to understand, okay, am I doing this because I need to make $50,000 this month to pay off these bills? Maybe, but you should be honest about that and not tell yourself that you're trying to change the world, right? And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's a
think
good point.
that yeah, a lot of people are confused saying that they're trying to change the world, but no, dude, you're just making a sandwich, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
you need to pay the bills. Like we're just trying to get that, and then maybe we can go to something else. But right now, this is more immediate.
Exactly, exactly,
This is
exactly, exactly. And so that's
keep
where
it.
I'm at,
Keep,
I think.
yeah, keep the thing the real thing. Is there a version of your work too, like what you're doing right now, that you would choose, even if no one was watching, or even if like you never got paid anything?
I mean, honestly, all of the social media stuff, all of the I like the idea that Warren has always done where he's, like, reading 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
I like listening to different information, understanding if I think that it's true or not. I like
Yep. Yep.
seeing how it could or would apply in each individual scenario. Uh, I think that I would not change anything at
Hmm.
all, actually. As of right now, right? I mean, there were situations and times where I would have changed everything, but now it's like, man, what would I do if I'm not getting paid? I mean, everything that I'm doing pretty much right
Right
now,
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the social
yeah,
media we're gonna get to in a second, but I think that's something that you're catching stride. You've been catching stride, but it's like I think you enjoy that from the outside. It's stuff that you enjoy. Like you're actually having fun, not in a loose way, but having fun of like learning, growing, interacting, right, getting feedback, right, all the great things that you can learn
yeah,
from it is yeah, you'd still do it. Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I think that it accelerates time. Right? I mean, what I would do if I could and I didn't get paid for, I would create like I forge it as a war, right? Like I literally would put people in a room to answer the hardest questions. Like, dude, and this gets crazy, bro. But like I go down these deep rabbit holes. Like it's like moon landings or bro, like I want somebody to answer like, okay, Islam, Christianity, Catholicism. Let's talk
Mhm.
about it. Let's put the
Yeah.
best people there. I would do that, like even without money, because it's like I think, and I heard this the other day too, and I totally agree that peace comes from the decentralization of knowledge. And it's the fact that we don't all live
Mhm.
on the same playing field that it creates the inequality. It's not just a dollar thing. It's like our
Yeah.
minds are not there. We do not all have the same information, and we're not all
No, no.
playing from the same foundation at all. And if we were, and we all knew truth, wouldn't we also know peace? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I think, I'm joking, right? Because you're talking about all these hard questions. It's one of those things where it's late night and, like, you pick your phone up at, like, 2 a.m. and you have this question in your mind, so you wanna answer it, right? You wanna figure it out, but, yeah, I think there's very much different, to your part about religion, there's different, like, these ontological, psychological, metaphysical, even physics of, like, what is truth and how do we frame it? How do we define it? What is your perspective against right? So there's all these different layers that, um, essentially really to dive into, right? So if you put people in the same room and get paid for it, it's gonna be interesting. Um,
That's what I'm going to
yeah,
use the social media for eventually. A million
yeah,
followers. I'm just going to
it'd
target
be
these people.
it'd be a good experiment to
Yeah.
dive into. because you can get really deep into it.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
I
so
think
that
other people will be interested in it too, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean,
I mean,
it
I
can't
would,
just be yeah.
there's things I do the same thing, so I can definitely relate. Before we move into the future of healthcare and platform building, a note for the founders, creators, and entrepreneurs listening. Zevin has scaled businesses to over 100 employees, navigated massive supply chain pivots, and mastered SEO and content strategy from the ground up. If you're an entrepreneur looking to sharpen your marketing, scale your operations, or build audience trust without relying on traditional playbooks, connect with Zevin directly on Instagram at Zevin Clark. Head over to at Zevin Clark on Instagram to see how he's building in real time and take your own venture to the next level. But beyond that, I want to move forward to you talking about social media, right? Like you are gaining trust, right, on social media, and a little bit about your healthcare vision that we're going to talk about kind of as well, and really kind of building this community that you've been building, really over I think like the last year and a half, right? Like getting over 1 million views, even 6-figure views on your social media, um, and kind of interacting right with kind of a social experiment in that in itself. But you've obviously built a social media platform through your socials, right? Specifically through Instagram and TikTok, to gain trust, specifically to design to fund a community, really a healthcare initiatives without depending on traditional venture capital, right? Which I think is an awesome concept. So for those, just kind of explain it in a simple way, like you want to get it from the capital of the people by building this community rather than going the traditional route and say, hey, I'm Mr. A and B person, I need the money to fund my business, right? So you really kind of approach from a different perspective. That being obviously a specific, unusual thesis, where did that idea come from? And what does that platform maybe actually look like when it works the way you intend it to?
Yeah, there was an I keep on going similar to Warren Buffett, man. He reads for 8 hours, I listen for 10. Who knows, bro? So
Come on.
I don't know where some of these things come from, so I can't cite the sources.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
there was a question that was posed and said, "Who wins in venture capital?" And the guy said, "Whoever needs who the least." And I think about that a
Mm,
lot, right? If I already have the community, if I've already displayed who I am, people know the story, and this is gonna be the most in-depth version of telling the story, right? A
mhm.
million people listen to this, they're gonna know we're gonna have what I call the parasocial relationship. It's
Yeah.
when people who I don't know me, right? But it's created through this, like, online persona.
Yep. Yep.
If that's created, you know what I mean, and you already have the trust, then it just comes down to releasing things that they can ask the questions. If they come up with the
Mhm.
same answers, which ends up being the truth, then why would they not purchase or follow specific protocols? And so I think that it all comes down to I'm calling it HumanOS, right? The
Mhm.
human
I love it.
operating system, which just comes down to what is it that we're supposed to be doing? Well,
Yeah.
like as a father, when my kid does something really stupid, am I supposed to hit
Which will
that
happen.
kid? Probably not. But, like, what are the real things that I'm supposed to follow? Like, what am I supposed to be eating?
Mhm.
Is it the carnivore diet? Is it the vegan diet? Is it a different diet for each individual person, right? Because it can't be cookie
Yeah.
cutter for everybody, right? Everybody
Correct.
can't have the same thing.
Yep. All
Uh,
different.
the all of the hardest questions, right? When my blood work says this, what is the onset or offset, uh, relationship that comes with disease from that, right?
Mhm.
When I've compounded all of these bad decisions, how do I make sure that it goes back to equilibrium? Like, there's all of these things that I think about all the time, and it's just like, man, you get the right people in the right room, they'll answer it. And if they don't have the
Mhm.
answer, somebody will start thinking about it even more, and then maybe we can even throw in some AI and it'll come up with the
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, yeah.
Then we just pass it down from generation to generation to generation because I think that's what some of the smartest families are doing, right?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of moving pieces there, right? I think we dissect it just thinking out loud. I look at going back to where you kind of just talked this whole thing, man. I think we agree on the anthropology and just studying human nature, human potential, the incentives, why we do what we do, right? The emotional jostling that happens of why we do the actions that we partake in. And I think you're creating this ecosystem, like you said, of getting people on the same answer, but it's also a human experiment to get people to think in alignment, right? And this this whole what do I want to say? Maybe just this ecosystem. It's almost like this. It's almost, I guess, where my mind goes is the interesting fact behind how leaders come into power. Not saying that's
Yeah.
you, right? But I'm like this idea of like we all have these interesting thoughts, and I'm getting this community to build it. One, I'm building my own brand, very similar to a lot of these people doing with their podcasts, right? They're not relying on the network; they're doing their own thing. That's how you're approaching
Yeah.
it. But two, I'm bringing this community where I'm trying to find all these answers and get into an agreement. And now I'm having people as almost like a living ecosystem that's living and breathing, right? We're all answering these questions and coming together. Um, I guess long story short is just the interesting humanistic levels that are taking place. And I think that you're engineering, but also having fun to see where it lands. And
Yeah.
in that healthcare space with the human OS, right? Of like, what do we do? What when this happens, what is the answer, right? Almost creating its own Google, if you will, search engine, but through people. Um, and maybe throwing some AI behind it. But like, what do we do in these situations and examining those things across time and space and situations. So, anyways, I guess that's my 2 cents of like just seeing this mentally kind of spill out as you're building it.
Yeah.
Really,
No, I
yeah,
mean, that's the whole premise right there. I
yeah.
wholeheartedly agree. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Very, very interesting to see. I guess and you kind of maybe answered it, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But like, what does a community funded healthcare initiative actually look like in practice? Can you maybe give a concrete example of what you want to build? And maybe right now it's just a question, like you said. But if you do have an answer, feel free to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it comes down to it being its own platform where we can have discussions. I think that that's where the community really comes into play, right?
Hmm.
Right now, I'm on this whole kick of like fiber, right? A lot of people are dealing
Yeah.
with colon cancer and things of that
Yep.
nature. Yeah, what if the solution really was just getting the real proper amount of fiber, so that way we don't have it just sitting there, right? And creating offset or ripple effect problems,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
I think that's one aspect of it. I think on the aspect of having to had overcome anxiety. How did
Yeah.
other people overcome it, and how do we have the conversations? Well, if somebody's having the same thing but having gone through something else, how did they have a similar solution or a similar outcome
Hmm.
to the one that I did? You know, I think that it comes down to uh, having the conversations, jotting down what the answers were, and then potentially having a summation of responses, whereas we can all get to one conclusion.
Whatever that may be. Yeah. Whatever
Whatever it might be. I
yeah,
mean,
that
you know.
question is. Yeah. Also speaking, so this is like really one silo, right? So if people are tuning in, right, this is really kind of one silo as you mentioned. Because really my next question here for you, Zevin, is obviously your healthcare insurance vision is really kind of centered around preventative care, right? That's kind of the baseline. Whether that's through different HMO models, supplements, right, peptides, therapies, and really making it affordable through mass adoption and insurance mechanisms. So this is another kind of silo, if you will, which is really kind of
Yeah.
a big systematic bet because there's a lot of value in what you're bringing um, in that realm, what do you see in that current healthcare cost structure, right? That most people are missing, and why do you believe the supply chain is where the disruption actually lives? So that's
Yeah,
kind
I
of a
mean, I think that the disruption comes from creating some level of free market, right?
yeah.
That allows us more people to compete so that way the price can decrease. Right
Hmm.
now, it's extremely difficult because there's only so many competitors, but you're kind of seeing it with peptides right now, right? It
Yeah.
started out as like $700 or even like
Listen.
retatrutide or tirzepatide
Yeah.
was $1,800, but now that people are openly compounding it, $400, $300, right? And so
Hmm.
when you have multiple market participants, being able to actually put their own skin in the game towards something, you're gonna
Yeah.
have the people who will be out there to only make 20% instead of 600%. And I think that
Yep.
that's where it gets to be extremely interesting. On the HMO side, it's very tough because I think that I need more data
Yep.
because of the facts that it needs to also we need to understand a little bit more about the incentive structure of being healthy, you know?
Mm,
I don't know if you've heard, Elon talking about the value of a human being once they have, the Neuralink, I think it's called.
yeah. I think
They
I've like ran across, I haven't dove into it, but I've seen like, conversation about it.
Yeah, he says
Conversation.
that I think that, that individual will have increased their value to the United States or the world by over $1,000,000. So, I mean, it really should come down to government subsidy of that, right? Creating an environment that allows us to be healthy also creates an
Mhm.
environment of more participants contributing to the system itself, thus creating a higher level of flourishing for the economy by uh, as a standalone.
Yeah.
But right now, it just doesn't operate like that. So, I mean, you got to get the right people in the rooms and start talking about uh, just quantifying the mathematics of it all and the economics.
Yeah, and it goes back to what's the incentives too. Like how
Exactly.
right through human nature, right? What are the incentives to become, like I said, studying the well being of like being healthy, quote unquote. What does that look like? Um, what is the theory essentially maybe behind that? And yeah, mapping out the math behind it. So yeah, I was just curious on that as well. Is there a specific product, maybe a therapy or a model you have seen work at a small scale, that you believe can actually be expanded? Something that maybe already exists but hasn't been like deployed maybe widely enough yet.
I mean, I've seen I forgot what the company name was, but I think it's the guys behind TBPN. They started talking about a brand that helps subsidize like expensive therapies. I just don't remember the name
Mm,
of the company.
yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, but they're doing well, and it
Okay.
seems like the company is scaling, and doing what they're supposed to be doing. I mean,
Right.
they allow you to buy supplements and stuff on they do like HSA and FSA, so you could buy it on your health savings account and stuff like that,
Hmm.
which is like employer,
Yeah, employer
participated,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, participating, yeah.
contributions.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, someone obviously will maybe heard of it, maybe they'll share with you when they get connected with you, or we can put it in the show notes to have it
Exactly, yeah.
so we can dive into it. I want to go back to the social media aspect of it too, because like I said, you've been doing this for a while, and really gaining a big following, which I think people see after the show if they don't already follow you. But you're producing like 2 or 3 videos a day right now. Like you're pumping out content, studying how just the most effective communicators in the world. Even people from past presidents, right? Whether it's Obama or Trump or other presidents that have been really effective, whether it's been polarizing or been great, kind of take that out the narrative, but just being effective communicators in general and actually talk. And you landed on like seventh grade reading level as the target, right? You want to make it simplified, digestible, relatable. People can grasp this type of information that you're sharing. What did learning that teach you about communication? And then secondary too, and how has it changed how you show up on camera when you're sharing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's changed a lot over the years. I used to want to sound smart, and having hired doctors, they want to sound smart. But I think that the
Mhm.
smartest people can articulate things in ways that anybody can understand because in order to get mass adoption, you need mass acceptance, you know?
Yes, yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
so when you look at I mean, you mentioned them before I did, right? Obama or Trump, they talk at like a 5th grade reading level, you know?
Super simple.
It's because everybody can understand what they're saying. And when you get to be like convoluted or confusing or have to
Mm,
talk in this like very specific jargon,
yeah,
you lose people. You lose so many different people, and then it's like, are you still gonna keep the vote? Are
yeah.
people gonna
And
No,
there's such a separation at that point because they don't feel that they can like relate to you or they
at
kind of
all.
participate in what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, and so, I mean, the biggest thing that I've always stuck with is, simple solutions for complex problems. I attempt to create the most simple solution for anything because I believe that
Mhm.
the person who really understands something can say it in a way that anybody can understand, like, anybody, you
Yep.
know?
Yeah, and it gets from A to B much quicker, less resistance.
Definitely. Way
Sticks. It
less
sticks.
resistance.
Yes, it sticks in the brain. People can see, okay, digest it and comprehend it. Um, what was there? Or I guess is there? I guess what is one thing that you're still working on in your maybe your delivery, even the gap between who you, I guess, where you are now to where you want to be, especially, and this is more relation to the social media.
Yeah. Presentation. So I
Yes.
think eventually I'm going to start amplifying that and putting more like pictures and different words so that way it like pops across the screen a little bit more. I think introductions are extremely important, and you can see that with like different videos. Some videos people get lucky, right?
Yeah, that's
But
true.
like when you look at like new creators and why they went viral, it's because they took somebody's attention in the first 6 seconds. So they made sure that that person, and it's really three. You go three, then
Yeah.
six, then 10, then 15,
Yeah.
and then you just keep on going up and up and up and creating like that level that allows them to be more engaged as the video progresses. But if you don't have them in the first 3 seconds and they swipe away, the video's not going to do well, you know? So it's really the introduction, it's the photography or the cinematography that's added to the videos.
Hmm.
Um, it's what's said and how it's
Yes.
said. It's vocal inflections. I think that's extremely important. It's even like how we use our hands, right? How we're actually involved. We're moving forward or moving back. I've always said if I'm sitting like this, you can hear it monotone in my voice too,
Yeah.
because it's not like as energetic, right? I think that the person who does this really well was the XL girl. All she's doing is teaching XL, but she always comes uh, as her being like ecstatic, as her being excited, as her being
Hmm.
involved in it, as if it's the Super Bowl. It is the Super Bowl for her, you know? So it's the
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
Bowl for everybody else because that energy gets transferred. And that's all that this is. And it's energy transfer. And my entire brand on social media is just making people ask different questions, like allowing
Hmm.
them to think. If I can make people think, that's important. I think that it holds a higher connection to make people think than to make them laugh. And I think that you
Hmm.
can reach more making people laugh. But to make people think, I don't know, man, you're stimulating something that might have been atrophied, right? That brain wasn't thinking before, but now it is,
Yeah,
you
that's a
know?
really good point. Yeah. That's really good. Like, honestly, hearing that, I'm like, that's really good. Making people think rather than making them laugh. Um,
Mhm.
you really probe and poke at that. You said that brain atrophy of like not thinking, right? And just idly living, but getting them to generate the energy and the brain cells to actually do something different is
Yeah.
yeah, kind of a mental stimulus there that get them thinking. So yeah, it's interesting. I think what's funny, right? Social media, you talked about the tension, is like it's like Vine on steroids now. You know, we have these 6-second videos, but it's like we need you to just watch the first 3 seconds to keep
Yeah.
going, right? So the movement, the tonality, the to what you talked about the other day is just like the words, right? The captions, the effects, almost like those movies that, like to your point, you say something and it pops up in the corner of like
Mhm.
whatever, right? And then it's like, or it shows the text message that you're texting while the person's moving. So all these little effects, right? Um, keep you leaned in, right? Keep you leaned into what you're saying, and then how you deliver it, the message. What's the content? What's the substance that's there? Can it move that individual? Can it probe that individual? Um, and want them to come back, right? What am
Yeah.
I? What is that? What is that drug essentially, that sugar that's having them come back to
Our
learn more?
favorite person, you know what he says, dude. Drake always says price tags on making the world feel something, you
Right.
know?
That's right. Yeah, Drake. Shout out to Drake. Hopefully he listens in and can
Hopefully
boost
learn
that.
something.
We'll tag him. We'll tag him on this one. But as we wrap up, man, real quick, I want to tell you about something I created because honestly, I needed it myself. For years, I could visualize the life I wanted. I could talk about it, write about it, even teach pieces of it. But living it, that was different. There was always this internal friction, like a part of me was trying to grow, and another part of me pulled me back into what felt familiar. And I realized I didn't have a motivation problem. I had a safety problem. My nervous system didn't know how to feel safe inside change. So I wrote the self-discovery blueprint, not as another productivity guide, but as a way to create internal conditions where growth doesn't feel like a threat. It's grounded in neuroscience, polyvagal theory, belief reconstruction, and everything I've learned from studying consciousness and embodiment. It's for people who know there's more in them, who can see it, but haven't quite trusted themselves to step all the way in yet. And I'm giving it to you free. No email gates, no upsells, just a tool I hope serves you in the way writing it served me. Check the show notes, download it, come back to it as you grow. Zevin, man, just looking at your whole story, man, you started feeling the weight of performance and anxiety in middle school, right? Navigated it through high school, through athletics, taught yourself to code, right? Build a business from scratch, slept in your car when you had to, scaled Bloomer to 100 people, watched your healthcare business you built not make it, and now producing content every day, right? Without building every day while building a platform to fund um, a community healthcare without institutional money. When you look at that full arc, right, that whole experience that you went through, which is phenomenal, what do you know now about what you're actually building that you couldn't have seen in the beginning?
I mean, what I couldn't have seen from the beginning.
Yeah, what you're actually building that you couldn't have seen in the beginning. What do you know now?
I mean, I would say that it was never about me, you know?
Mm,
That's as simple as I could put that. I could go more in depth, but I mean, for the longest time, I thought that it was about me. You know, I thought that this was Zevin, you know, but
it
it's
really it's
not.
about
It,
it's
it it's about like the higher power. It's about the amplification of humanity. It's about society becoming a better place, a safer place, a more understood and peaceful place. I think that that's what it's really coming down to versus like I'm gonna make $1 billion. You know,
mm,
like those are totally different worlds. Both of those
yeah,
things.
it is
That's
two
what they are.
different lanes. I think that could be a byproduct. Don't get me wrong, because I think
Yeah.
the value you bring, but to your point, I think without you saying it, I think it's like the focus is on the people. It's on humanity. It's on, like I said, lifting them up, increasing it, refining it, amplifying, whatever, adjective you want to use. But that's the focus. Zevin is, I'm just a participant in this ecosystem to hopefully bring this to the surface. And if that's a byproduct of $1 billion, great. But my focus is not there, right? It's on the people
Yeah.
and how to move them forward. My next question here is, what would you go back and tell the version of yourself in middle school, right? Think about middle school, who was getting sick before football games, the thing he most needed to hear.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. What would I go back and tell my middle school self? I mean, I would just say courage, right? I would say to learn
Yeah.
courage, to understand failure, and to walk through failure. I would honestly, you know what's even crazier about this? That's also helped the anxiety, dude. Pick up
Yeah.
the Bible, bro. Just read it,
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
Listen to more sermons than music videos. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. You gotta keep in
Uh,
rotation.
I think that that's what it really comes down to, and then, relinquish control because there's only so much control that you can actually have, and the only thing that you can't control
Hmm.
is yourself, right?
Yeah. That'd be good. That's a good lesson for anyone, but definitely, yeah, to that younger self. So you talked about the tension between peace, right, and the intensity of the work, right? And at the gym you also kind of sprinkled in there is really kind of a non-negotiable, right? The one thing is fully yours regardless of what else is happening. What does that kind of anchor actually give you? And what do you think would happen to the work if you let it go? So kind of two opposite ends of that question.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think I'd feel good. I've
Yeah.
I've done it without it, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it's just like you need more exogenous substances, in order to sustain long periods or durations of time with
Mhm.
intensity. So I think that, the gym, I mean, it's its own addiction, but I think that it's, like, the healthiest
It
addiction
could
that
be
you could
healthy, yeah.
have, right?
Yep.
Going, making sure that you're getting the sweat in. I think that the most important thing about the gym is that you've already did your hardest level of failure, right? Whether that's failing at push-ups or attempting
Mhm.
to do your 10,000 steps all in one session, right?
Correct.
Trying to bench 315 pounds with your friend who lets it just sit on your chest for an extra 15 seconds because you can't push it up yourself. I think that like, all that stuff is so, like, fascinating because, there aren't many other situations outside of physicality that
Yeah.
would allow you to reach your full potential that day or find it,
Mhm. Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yep. Is there anything else too? Like, is there anything else other than gym that's a non-negotiable or functions as a non-negotiable? Something that you like, you
Um,
protect regardless of how busy, things get? Or is it like the gym is kinda your core anchor of like, I'm going every day?
I mean, I think about learning something every day is there. Like, I
Mm.
have to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do that every day. Like, I look for something that I've learned every day.
Yeah, it is good. I know for me, it's like reading, trying to read,
Yeah,
even if it's a page. Like, it's just the activity more than, like, the activity to, like, try to learn something new, right? It
yeah,
makes you more interesting, not from an egotistical standpoint, but, like, you can dive into different conversations, right? Talking from different topics. It's just you learn more vast. I think it to the point is just learning. You get to learn new information. So it's that's the basis of it. But yeah, trying to read like Lisa Page, learn something new. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Uh,
Same, literally same.
yes. For someone listening right now, right? Maybe it's an entrepreneur, right, who has built something real that didn't work out, or someone who's in a middle school version of their own anxiety and doesn't know yet what to do with it. What do you say to that person?
I mean, somebody dealing with their own anxiety, I think that that just comes down to understanding self, right? There's
Hmm.
a really good book, The Way of Integrity. So, becoming whole, that's what integrity means. It's not necessarily being a good person, it means to have yourself
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
that was and like you said, you like to read. So, I think that that was one of those things that really, helped me a lot when it came to anxiety. I think that there is the level of control that you need to also relinquish. And then what was the first thing that you said? It wasn't
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
anxiety,
Just
it
no,
was
it's
the
an entrepreneur.
business,
Yeah, so
the
maybe it's an entrepreneur
entrepreneur.
who actually built a business, right, that didn't work out. Um, you know
The average business person fails 9 times before they see success on the 10th. You're probably
Yeah.
only on business 1.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? Just keep going. You just keep going because at the end of the day, as long as you keep going, you'll find something that has to work, right? There's just so
Mhm.
many things that work at this
Exactly,
point,
it's
you
really a
know?
marathon, and then that's a really good answer to it. Like,
Yeah.
don't, and there was a question I maybe forgot to ask, but that was really kind of the emphasis of it, like, you're on business 1, right? Like, you may catch stride on business 5 for a couple of years, and it's like, goes back down, business 6, 7, and then business 9 is like, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you mass scale on business 9, but there's gonna be wins there, and I think if you pace yourself for the longevity of what that's gonna look like and not have a narrow or maybe not even narrow, but just a minimized vision of what it should be, that can do, wonders for you from,
Yeah, definitely.
just from, pacing yourself. Alright, so one of my last questions here as we wrap up is, where can people find you, right? Where can they follow you, Zevin, and stay connected with what you're building?
Yeah, it's just at Zevin Clark. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, those I'll start doing YouTube eventually, but for now, just Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah,
'Kay. Easy enough. 1, 2,
easy.
3. Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, TikTok. We'll line it up. As always, as those who obviously listen in, tune in, watch, always put them in the show notes for those connect with you, through your socials, want to reach out to you, learn from you, ask questions, right? And maybe join your community as well.
Mhm.
But the most and I guess last question, right? The famous question here on the show is, you know, if I asked you, Zevin, right? Because we're on the show as always, right? The Life Is podcast. And if I asked you, right, Zevin, life is blank, and
Hmm.
there's a phrase or there's a word you want to input at that point, what would be that word or phrase to fill in?
I would say that your outputs are based on your inputs. So life is your inputs.
Mm, it is. Yeah, it's true. The originating source, right? The core emphasis, whatever's in that starting point.
Yeah,
That's
and that goes for everything.
that's the starting point. So life is the inputs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, well, we'll take it. I like it. It's another great lesson to give, not only for myself, but for those who are listening, and to carry with them forward. But most importantly, man, I really want to thank you, for your time, for your eccentric personality, the energy, the journey, and just the I wouldn't even say the willpower, but just the perseverance to keep going, man. You've shown things through a coherent path, and I respect that, and I appreciate you, like I said, getting on the show and wanting to share. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for hosting, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah. As always, man, we will let you go, see you on the other side, and continue to let you do great things and continue to build things and scale the business that you're obviously working on.
Love it. All right. You have a good day.
All right, man. Take care.
Peace.
What Zevin showed us today is that the anxiety you feel before the game is not evidence that you are not ready. It is evidence that you care. He felt it in middle school. He felt it before football games in high school. He felt it every time he built something new with no guarantee it was going to work. And he learned, slowly, through the businesses that didn't make as much as the ones that did, that the internal infrastructure matters more than the external idea. He slept in his car. He scaled to 100 people. He watched COVID hit what he had built and had to start again. He is still building. 2 to 3 videos a day, a platform designed to fund community healthcare without a single VC in the room. A vision that connects every supply chain lesson he has ever learned to a problem that actually matters. That is not a hustle story. That is a coherent story. And the building never stopped. Until next time, I'll see you in the next episode. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Life Is podcast. If something in this conversation landed for you, a shift in perspective, a reminder, or something you needed to hear, don't let it stay there. Take it with you, put it to work. If you're ready to go deeper, I have tools built specifically for this journey, a self-discovery blueprint and a diagnostic designed to show you exactly where your foundation needs attention. Links are in the show notes. And if this episode added value, share it with someone who's building, leave a review, help us grow this community of intentional people doing real work. Remember, fulfillment isn't found, it's built. Life is art in motion, and you are the artist. Until next time, keep building.